And this was the end of last year, November, December. The end of December, I actually found a place, but I wasn't able to come back until February, the beginning of February. Time went by. I was, just being positive, praying, listening to my gospel music, and I was in the bathroom getting ready. I was doing my hair and a little lip, and next thing I know, this commotion starts in the kitchen living room area. It escalated very quickly. The person that I was seeing with the weapon, with the gun, this person was arguing with the other person. Now, this whole thing could have, the argument wouldn't have taken place had the other person just said, okay. But nonetheless, it escalated. And a third person walked in trying to intervene to protect the other person that should have just said, okay. And it just happened so fast. I left out of the bathroom, went into the living room where the three people were. And as soon as I'm walking up and I stop, the Lord said, this is what I've been showing you. Stay calm. It was like, oh my God, it stopped me in my tracks. And mind you, it was already three people. I don't live there. But I knew in that moment, again, because of what God had already been showing me, and because it already seemed to be 3 against 1, that I needed to be cool. And this one person kept trying to provoke the person who was trying to protect someone else. And I was just like, Lord, is this gonna have to get physical? I didn't say anything. I tried to calm the person down. But when I said that, he was like, no, be calm. Because I had stepped up, not fast, not come on with it, but I stepped up a little bit. And I think that person could sense that, because he went to the back, to his room, actually saying, I'll never lose in here. I'll never lose in here, because it was his house. But in the process of that, I'm saying, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm hollering at this point, saying, let's go, it's time to go, because I already knew what was going on. One person is already ready, sitting on the couch, ready to leave. The other person who was trying to protect the person sitting on the couch, listen, I know this is confused. Try to stay with me with this, because I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to be messy and telling people business, but hey, it is what it is. The other person left to go put their shoes on and basically decent clothes, because it was cold outside. Before they could get finished, the person had gone to the back, came back up to the front, and was steady talking. And he turned around, went through the hall. But when he went around, I was looking, because I already knew he had the gun in his back right pocket. So I went in behind him, because I knew he was going for the other person, trying to provoke him. And as I'm walking down this hallway, I'm praying. I said, Lord, stay with me. Please let me get us out of here. And so went to the back room. He was steady trying to provoke the other person. Eventually, he pulled the gun out and he pulled it off safety or whatever. And so I had to yell at him for him to stop. Eventually, all of us got out of the house, and 2 of us ended up at the place where I was working. And of course, the story was being told a few times, but they would ask me, how did you know he had a gun? And I just said, I saw it. But what I should have said was, I saw it in the spiritual. The Lord was already showing it to me. No, it wasn't the exact same way, but he was warning me, because had I been the old Brittany trying to fight other people's battles for them, or not learning how to fight in the spiritual, praying or in my Bible, in the word, then it would have gone completely different. The gun would have been pointed at me. I probably wouldn't be here right now. He was warning me, showing me what was ahead of me so that I could be ahead of the situation. Yes, I had gotten us out of there safely. And again, I did tell the person that I had to protect. I did tell him later on what God had been showing me. But the reason why I didn't tell the other person or other people, because when in the past, when I would have dreams or I would see certain things and I would mention it, like it would be written off, or people, when it just seemed like they didn't believe me, even though it would come to pass later. It just seemed like that was always the reaction that I would get. Now, I understand that some things that I've mentioned, not a lot at all, but some things I wasn't spiritually mature enough to understand what God was showing me. I may have said something too quick, or I couldn't decode the dream or what I saw, and it came out wrong, or it came off wrong, or whatever. Or maybe the enemy had his hand in some stuff. I do believe that with some things, but there were too many times when other people that I shared, hey, I saw this, or did this happen to you, they would say, oh my God, how did you know that? I haven't told anybody this. Basically, how do you know? And I would tell them I saw it. And it's just really been a lot happening since 2018. And I want to say this because a lot of times we hold on to things, we carry things with us, and we may not know that something is still bothering us because we've buried it so deep. We haven't talked about it. And I didn't know that this was the case until the end part of 2018. When I was a little girl between the ages of 8 and 10, when I was in Cottonwood, we lived in Cottonwood, and then we lived at 1411 South Fur. There were 2 incidents that happened to me. One, I never told a soul. I never spoke about it. I never brought it up until October of 2018, because the first time that I spoke up about the situation in Cottonwood, I was ignored. Basically, what I said didn't matter. I was told, let's table the conversation until the morning, and the other person's side was taking over mine, and that was the end of it. I never mentioned that. I never said anything to anybody else about it. So when the second incident happened, I never mentioned it. And I didn't know that I was still hurt. I didn't know that I was still angry about it until I blew up in 2018. I said all that to say, although it's not a part of seeing things, but when this came up, some family believed me and some relatives didn't. The person that I confronted tried to gaslight, or I don't remember, and which is fine. I forgive that person. I forgive the ones who don't believe me. But the main point that I'm trying to get to is there is no statute of limitations on speaking your truth, saying how you feel, saying how something affected you. You can confront the person, go in peace. You have the right to try to talk about things to find your healing. Again, go in peace, because when it came up for me, it wasn't peaceful at all. But go in peace and speak your truth. And it doesn't matter who believes you or who doesn't believe you. Even if somebody tries to come back and rewrite history and say, oh, I did this, or I jumped on him, or whatever the case may be, and that's not what happened. You stand 10 toes on what happened. You stand 10 toes on what happened. And you really have to take it back to God and pray and determine whether or not those people deserve to be around you, to be in your life. I've read this quote a few times that we can't change people, but we can change the people around us. I just wanted to say that I'm not trying to be messy. I'm not trying to be mean. But again, this is my testimony, and whoever it can help, whoever it serves, then God, thank you for using me. Again, I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not bitter. I forgive, and I love them, and I pray for them every day. I know it's a lot. I know I'm long-winded, but all of this, I pray it makes sense. I just wanted to get that out the way about having spiritual gifts, because I didn't know or understand that that was a part of what was going on with me when they were saying it was psychosis. I'm going to say the hospital, or when I would go to the hospital or whatever, it was psychosis. I want to backtrack. And I came off 2006. Between 2006 and 2009, the person who I would consider to be my pro-fight, who wanted me to wear her number, which was 4, she renounced the organization. She sent a text and she said, can't remember what she said verbatim, but she basically said she was no longer a part of Delta Sigma Theta. I read the message, girl, who gonna make our shirts? Because she made our t-shirts. To anyone who had to bend down and smush their hair or make themselves shorter or taller than someone else to wear my number, please pray about this and take it back to God. Anybody that I've worked with in a step show or any other event that knew me, that know me, and saw my leadership, I really hope that y'all pray and take this back to God first. If your legacy, take this back to God, not your mother, not your father, or whoever else. Take this back to the Lord for him to confirm everything for you. I know that you look to your spiritual leaders for guidance. A lot of times we put people in the church on a pedestal, and it can be your pastors, the first lady, and you feel because you see them doing it that it's right, and it's not. It's still a curse. And I'm gonna try my best to explain this where it will make sense. I don't know if y'all have heard the story about grandma's ham. It's been told a few different ways, from the daughter seeing the mother cook the ham, and it was told another way from the husband asking the question. Basically, the mother was in the kitchen preparing the ham, and she would cut off about an inch of the ham, and her daughter said, "Mama, why are you cutting off the ends of the ham?" And she would say, "That's how my mama did it." And the little girl got curious called her grandmother, asked her grandma, why did she cut off the ends of the ham? The grandmother said, that's how my mama did it. Then they got great grandmother on the phone, and turns out the grandma did it, the great grandma did it, because her pan was not large enough to fill all of the ham. So she was throwing it away. Over the course of years, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever occasion, people were calling, I wish I had some ham. That ham was good. Is it any more ham? I wish I could fix me a ham sandwich. That ham was the bum. I should have took some with me. Just like a lot of us are walking around saying, oh Lord, I wish I had more peace. I wish I had joy. I wish I was free of this depression. I wish I was free to be myself. I wish I could let go of these strongholds. I wish I didn't have these addictions. I wish. Not realizing that we gave all that away when we walked into those rooms of darkness, bent down in front of a table with candles lit that was a representative of another God, signed our names under this covenant. Nobody was bold enough to question what was going on. Now, I know everybody's process was different. I'm going to speak for myself. When it came down to induction, when I walked in that room, it was dark with candles lit. It was spooky, but I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, just like the generations of daughters who kept cutting the ends off of the ham, not asking any questions because they saw their mother do it, or they saw their grandmother do it, or they saw their great grandmother do it. I wasn't brave enough to say, excuse me, can somebody turn on the light? Can somebody put on a night light, because it's dark in here, because y'all got all these candles, and if somebody lose balance, we gonna need that fire truck we supposed to come off on for real. No, I didn't say anything. And I know I'm not by myself. And there were others who came in after me that said the same thing. Well, Brittany did it. I kept going. I said my cousins did it. My aunt did it. My aunt's best friend did it. I kept walking because I wanted to wear the letters, because I was only 19, because I was a baby, because I was naive, because I was ignorant to what was really taking place at that moment. Some of y'all may be saying it's not that deep, or it's not that serious because your heart is hardened right now. But again, take this message back to God. The Lord had to really take me back to different things. One thing being that I was baptized at St. Peter's Rock Baptist Church in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And years later, I was singing this chant, when I get to heaven and I can't get in, gonna show St. Peter my sorority pin, going Delta. Hey, going Delta. Ah. Now at the time when I was singing it, when I was a baby and ignorant, I thought the chant meant when I get up there and St. Peter won't let me in, when I show him my sorority pin, I'm VIP. He's going to let me in. I'm going to be able to move ahead of the line. No, that's not what the chant means. The chant means when I get to heaven first and I can't get in, St. Peter said, you can't get in. I'm be like, baby, I'm with DST anyway. I didn't want to come up in here. I'm going this way. I'm going a different way. That's what that means. Going Delta. Hey, you don't think it's serious? You don't think it's a problem? Okay. Let me provide another illustration. There is the Omega service. That's basically when a Delta dies, there is a separate service after. Now, I've only been to one. I was still in college, and that one service tore me up because, again, I didn't realize what I was a part of. And I just remember sitting there thinking, this is what's going to happen to me when I leave. Don't quote me. I don't remember if it was before or after the service, but I know with a lot of services, after the pastor, the officiant of the funeral does the eulogy, they take the body to a separate room and read these different scriptures or whatever from the book. Why is that done? If the organization is really founded on Christian principles, why isn't the pastor's last final words enough? God has spoken, let the church say amen. No, because that person was under a different covenant. They took them to a separate room to read whatever, and you're gonna go over here to whoever. You can't get in the upper room. You're going this way. If that wasn't the case, everything would have been finalized after the eulogy was delivered. Something else with the Lord giving it to me in a special way. The Lord had to take me back to just different things, showing me that everything was divinely orchestrated. He had to give me the fact that I was baptized at St. Peter's Rock in that chant, because there were other people that were saying Jesus, Jesus, basically saying that everything happened to me because I was denying Jesus. Now, do I believe that that's why it happened? Yes, I do, partially, but I also know that I know that I was called for this moment. I know that everything that happened to me was not by chance. It was supposed to go that way. But there were other people that were basically, they didn't say it to me directly, but I heard that's why this happened. Or even someone, who was online with me, Jesus, they wouldn't necessarily say why they were saying it, but I knew they were trying to say, oh, this is why that happened. But what they were saying was falling on deaf ears, and God had to give it to me differently because he knows that I'm a little stubborn now. And there's nothing wrong with being stubborn, because you have to have stubborn faith sometimes. But the reason why it was falling on deaf ears is because the same people were under the same covenant that I was under. And they were either in the same organization or in a different organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be the NPHC, any Black Greek letter organization. All of it is a part of Freemasonry. And the other covenant, the other way that you may be under this covenant, and I want to make sure I'm sensitive to this topic. I want to make sure that y'all know that I'm not trying to be funny by any means, but because I know the algorithm is sensitive, because I be on YouTube University, I know certain words will trip the algorithm. What I want to say is, if you've ever gone to the place where Jody took Yvette to have a procedure. If you've ever given someone 5 on it to have a procedure, then you are under covenant with Moloch. That is a part of Baal worship, Freemasonry. All of this is a part of Baal worship. Now, how I know is because when everything went out about Tiffany Montgomery saying don't go to a Beyonce concert, this was early part of this year. I watched that video, and then another one of her videos popped up about a Shun, the boar in the middle. And so once again, I was like, oh, I don't know why this popped up, but I'm gonna watch it. I've never had the procedure, but I do know that there are people in my bloodline who have. And because that is my bloodline, it can affect me as well. It will affect me as well. I watched the video and I said the prayer for that reason. But I was still wondering, why did I watch this? But anyway, less than a week, I'm talking to this young girl. She was about 22. And we're talking, she's telling me that her sister is pregnant and what was going on at the doctor. And I asked her, what did she think about it or whatever? And she was like, I don't get into that. And me being inquisitive, why or whatever. And she told me that she'd had the procedure. And so I told her about the video that I had just watched less than a week ago. And I said, I'll send it to you. So we continued to talk. I sent her the video. Less than 30 minutes, she FaceTimed me, crying, bawling, saying, oh my God, I feel so free. I feel so delivered. Thank you for sending me the video. And I want to go back because the reason why Tiffany posted the video was for the same reason. She heard a woman speak in church about it. She's talked freely about her having the procedure, and the woman prayed over her. She said that she felt delivered. To anyone who has undergone the procedure, you're having issues with fertility, with conceiving, miscarried, other things. It may not even be that. It could be just reproductive issues. Please watch the video. If, depending on where you're watching it, it will be linked in my YouTube description. I really want y'all to watch these videos, say these prayers, and share it. It is very important. There are people who I've been friends with, family, they never told me, but I know. It may have been something that your parents made you do because they felt you couldn't make the decision or they felt you were too young. Watch this video. Free yourselves. This video about the procedure, me sharing it with a young girl, all of that happened this year. Now, before this year, after everything happened with me in 2017, and I was arrested, I was in jail for 10 months. Everyone kept saying it was this or it was that. I would periodically think back to when I went to the lady's house, the psychic's house, and I would say, did she do something to me? Because I didn't start having issues until not long after. Well, the Lord did not reveal to me until early part of this year that when she was going around my head praying, she was trying to cast out the darkness. She was trying to cast out the darkness, that we walked into that room. She was basically trying to get me from under the covenant that I didn't know I was a part of. And so that's how everything transpired. I was in deep spiritual warfare up until shoot, I'm gonna say the beginning of this year. I was in deep spiritual warfare. And I know there were so many rumors. It was this, it was that. And I can understand why some would believe it, especially when I went back the second time. But I just want to set the record straight for today. It has only been Mary Jane that I've had, nothing else. It was never an addiction. It's something that I will not pick up again. That is it. A person who was involved in the second situation basically tried to get me to go down for something that was theirs, for something that I did not partake in. That is why you have to be very conscious of the people you keep around you, and know that everyone is not your friend, because they will put something off on you to save themselves. And I know a lot of people will do it. I know, given the situation, it was challenging for the person, but for me and my morals and my integrity, I'm not gonna let you go down for something that's not yours, that you did not partake in. And sad to say, I didn't realize, I didn't receive the bigger picture until earlier this year. You lied on me when I was there, and then didn't hear from you. No word of mouth. They were talking to my family, then all of a sudden they went ghost. Well, that's why. But then when I was released, it was, I've been praying for you and God this and God that. No, you're not my friend. You would really let me go down like that. But thank God, thank the Lord, that charge was dropped. I just want to say that I want the record to be straight. I'm not perfect. I didn't say never have I ever. And on that particular day, no, that was not the case. And then this is for the people who actually know me or know of me. And to back that up, when I was at Carroll State Hospital, the doctor, the psychiatrist who saw me, he basically told me that I was having anxiety attacks. And the Lord told me, now they started to wean me off of medication while I was there. But me listening to someone speaking negatively, saying that I was gonna go to prison and this, that, and the other, and I needed to act slow or whatever the case, that changed. But the Lord spoke to me a few weeks ago, said, find your medical records. I couldn't find them, but they were sent to me again. And it was basically in the records, it was basically psychosis. I can't remember if it said exactly psychosis, but it was not due to drug usage or whatever. If I have time, because I'm on a short time schedule to edit this video, I will add it in there, but I will put a piece up under, because I don't want people to run and take things out of context. But anyway, that aside from him, prior to that, my daddy had already told me that I would not have to be on medication forever. And when I left Terrell State, I had to go back to Dallas County. And then I was there for about 3 months. And then I was transported to Collin County. Now, I was transported a few times. I remember this one time in particular. Now, the other times I was transported along with other people, minus a couple times when I was out of it. But I was transported with other people. And I remember I was being transported back from Carroll State Hospital. I was on my way back to Dallas County. I was in that van by myself, and I was handcuffed, shackles were on my feet, and I just remember saying, why? Like, what did I do? Like, God, what did I do? And the Lord kept telling me, I'm gonna use you. He just kept saying, I'm gonna use you. And throughout the course, Lord help me. He didn't bring that time back to me until recently. When I got out, when I was released in 2018, February of 2018, I had to stay with family. Then I had to go stay with a so-called friend. But I was still battling the medication that they had me on. I had to basically tell them, hey, several times, this is not working, because I didn't have a personality. I didn't want to talk. I couldn't even focus. The only thing I could watch was Family Feud, and that's because I didn't have to focus on it. But they would have my medicine too strong. They would have my medicine too strong. And I was like telling them what was going on, but they couldn't get it right. And I know towards the end of October of that year, I basically weaned myself off, and that is the wrong thing to do. I stopped taking it. And then I had another issue, another episode, went from handcuffs to the hospital. Handcuffs to the hospital several times. And I wasn't on anything. I didn't take anything. Had that been the case, I probably wouldn't be here right now, because I was on papers and I would have been locked up like Akon if that were the case. There was one episode that took place in 2019. I was in a holding cell for hours because they were thinking I was on something, like they were waiting on a high or drunkenness to come down. And it wasn't until I was in the middle of the floor. Again, I'm not going to say the word because of the algorithm, but I remember I was in a sundress. I was in the middle of the floor and I was screaming. They're trying to unalive me. They're trying to me. And when I said that, they came and opened that door so fast, and they got me out. They put a football helmet on my head and they transported me to the hospital. I was like still outside of myself. I was rapping, I was cursing, I was just all over the place. I remember a black officer standing over me, like looking at me. It was a look of concern, but they were trying to like get the needle in my arm. I couldn't sit still. They were trying their best to like find my vein. Eventually I calmed down and I came back to myself. Later on that year, it was another time. Listen, it was a lot of times. But they didn't give me a proper, and it's not even proper to me, but they didn't give me I didn't get an actual diagnosis until 2019. And so that time I was saying that somebody was trying to take my life. That was 2019. Early part of 2022, which was last year, it was between, I think it was actually around the end of February. Yes, around the end of February. My daddy passed June 2021. Then my maternal granddaddy passed the end of January 2022. I was already not dealing with my daddy's passing well, but I was trying to move forward. But then when my granddaddy died, Like, that's when I knew that God was calling me to sit down. I knew it was something that he was trying to tell me. And so I did that. Now, around February, March, my medication was being changed. There were a lot of times my medicine had to be changed. And along with those times where, I kept having the episodes, I would get apprehended and they would take me to the hospital. I was on medicine. Times I was on medicine and the medicine wasn't agreeing with me, like trazodone. I cannot take that. They tried to put me on that a couple times and it would basically send me into psychosis. Another medication, I cannot think of it, Seroquel. It would knock me out. Like, first they tried to have me on like 100 milligrams. It would knock me out. I would be asleep all day. The only thing I would do is get up and probably go use the bathroom. Then I would come back and go back to sleep. So in the process of them changing my medicine, I told the doctor, they were like, oh, well, we're going to take it down to, was it 12? Either way, they took it down to a low dosage and told me to split it. Excuse me. Even with me splitting the medication, it didn't knock me out. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It didn't knock me out cold, but I would have this very bad nagging pain on the right side, on my right side, every time I took it. And then it would slow down my digestive system. I would gain so much weight. Throughout the whole process, I gained a lot of weight due to the medication. And also what I was eating at that time, because I didn't have a choice. But, I had to keep telling the doctor, hey, this is not working. There were other medications that started causing vision problems. I'd already, almost went blind before. So I would say, hey, this is not working. So basically, I was in the process of getting my medicine changed. I was still taking medicine, but for whatever reason, I started having issues with sleeping again. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I know that if I don't sleep for a day or two, what's going to happen? Got on the phone with my psychiatrist. She kept sending me to CVS. I remember there were 2 days I went to CVS, probably two times in a day. And, I kept saying, hey, this is not working. And because of that, I had Benadryl. Over the course of 5 days, I hadn't slept. I had not slept. And I had taken about 4 Benadryl, not at the same time, but, just over that period. Now, at that time, I had a roommate. We had it was a 2-bedroom. And she, was like, are you okay? You haven't came out the room. And I had already told her before that, sometimes I have issues with sleep. And so, a day or so, close to the 4th or 5th day, I didn't know what day it was. I was very spaced out, but she was like, do you want me to bring you something to eat? You haven't came out of the room. And when it first started, I told her that I may need her to take me to the hospital. And so she was like, do you need me to take you to the hospital? And I texted her back and I said, they're gonna try to unalive me. They're gonna try to me, is what I texted. And basically, within those 5 days, when it got to the 5th day, it was bad. Like, it's like I could feel something was coming every time it happened. I could feel it and I was like in fight mode. And so I remember I was like washing clothes and it's almost as I just felt like something was like circling around me. And I promise, like I was in that kitchen, like swinging, like really swinging, like, what was his name on Boys in the Hood? I want to say, was it Dre? Anyway, Cuba Gooding Jr. I was like in that kitchen, like swinging. And then it came to a point where I was like slamming clothes like up against the wall. And each time it was like I knew what was happening, but I couldn't switch it off. It was as if somebody had control of my mind, because there was a person, because we shared mental health issues before. She heard me upstairs and she called and did a wellness check. By the time the police came, they were banging on the door. And I ran to the bathroom and I turned the shower on myself. Did I know what I did or what I was doing? Yes. But was I aware, or was I able to turn off what was happening? No. Something, a demon, had control of my mind. They came in, my roommate wasn't there at the time. They busted down her door, they busted down her bathroom door. Then they finally came to my side, and first of all, they came in fully armed. They pulled me out of the shower and I just kept hearing them say, "Brittany, what did you take? What did you take? What did you take?" They saw the prescriptions on the counter, on the desk or whatever. And they just kept saying, "What did you take?" But I was unresponsive. Like, I heard them, but I could not speak. Of course, it was because, one, I hadn't had any sleep, but it was something was over me, okay? I was being attacked, which is why I told my roommate they were going to take me out. And I don't know if y'all remember, but there was a time when Martin Lawrence ran out in the street saying someone was trying to take him out. He ran out with a gun saying someone was trying to take him out. And I don't know if you don't understand the correlation, but again, all of this is under Freemasonry. Everything that's happening now in the industry with T.D. Jakes and P. Diddy and everybody else, all of this is under Freemasonry. Okay? So, and it's all spiritual warfare. I knew that it was spiritual warfare. I just didn't know where it stemmed from. The Lord also revealed to me that it started years before, in high school, when we were young and we would go to the Kappa League parties, Sigma Beta, so on and so forth. When I made it to high school, like my senior year, I started going to fraternity parties. Or if it was homecoming, I would go to those parties. Well, if you lived in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where did those parties take place? Did somebody say the Shrine? Did someone say the Sahara Temple? Yes, so all of these parties were held at the Shriners Temple. And this was a ritual that we were not aware of. I will try to add the passages and the scriptures on screen. Again, for the sake of me getting this video out, I may not, but I'm going to read this. This is Isaiah 44:9, and then I'm going to skip around. But it says, "All who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind. They are ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol, which can profit nothing. People who do that will be put to shame. Such craftsmen are only human beings. Let them all come together and take their stand. They will be brought down to terror and shame. The blacksmith takes a tool and works with it in the coals. He shapes an idol with hammers. Now I'm skipping down to 13, where it says the carpenter measures with a line and makes an outline with the marker. He roughs it out with chisels and marks it with compasses. He shapes it in human form in all its glory, that it may dwell in a shrine. That it may dwell in a shrine. What is a shrine? Google says a shrine is a place regarded as holy because of its associations with a divinity or a sacred person or relic, marked by a building or other construction, a place regarded as holy. Another passage that I want to read, this is in the Women's Study Bible, the NIV version. Now, this is an insert about idolatry under Isaiah 41:26. It reads, an idol, that is, an image or a phantom, in ancient times was often cast as the actual physical image of a god. Idolatry is a direct attack against the basic nature of God. In the New Testament, idolatry is associated with sexual sin, evil desires, covetousness, and anything else that causes people to deviate from the gospel of Jesus Christ. An idol is whatever claims the loyalty and glory that belong to God alone. For that reason, idols are detestable in God's sight. They arouse his jealousy, anger, and even hatred. Idols are non-entities that are crafted and fashioned out of human imagination. Nevertheless, they are associated with witchcraft and contain demonic potencies that constitute a very real spiritual menace. Idolatry and Christianity are totally and utterly incompatible, and believers are thus admonished to keep themselves free from idols. I will try to add this in if I can, but it does reference different scriptures. However, something that I want to touch on is the sexual sin. I will link videos, but I know we live in a society that is trying to normalize the rainbow community, but it is not right. It is not of God. And before I've came to this realization, I felt otherwise. And I now understand. I no longer feel that way. I still love people. Some of my closest people are a part of that community. But I will link the 2 videos that explain why it is a sin, because it's linked to the Asherah pose, if I'm calling it correctly. I don't want to misquote anything, but I will link the videos because it explains the incest between the mother and the son. If I'm not mistaken, forgive me for not having time to do more research on that, but when I watched those videos, it made perfect sense. Another point that I want to make, when a Delta or any member of the Divine Nine gets married, there is a special performance. Do y'all remember the song by Moke and Steph, He's Mine? You may have had him once, but I got him all the time. Now, that song never made sense to me because If she had him one time, how is he yours all the time? Stay with me. She was basically saying, hey, he's mine. I know this happened one time, but that's my man. Let's go to another scene. Two people are getting married, a man and a woman. They get married. The officiant asks, is there anyone who has a problem with these two getting married? No one stands up. No one raises their hand. Nobody comes in and says, I want to be with you, I love you. None of that. They are pronounced happily married under God, Jesus Christ. There is a three-strand cord that is formed after those vows are said and after it is official. And they go to the reception. At some point in the reception, the Delta is in the middle of the floor. Her sorority sisters are around her. They've joined hands to sing, She's Mine. It may look like she's yours, but really she's mine. And y'all may be like, girl, what? I used to sing this song so hard, couldn't wait to sing it. But the song says, she may be an Omega sweetheart or the dream girl of A Phi A. She may wear a Kappa's diamond or her love mate a Sigma B. But if she wears the Delta symbol, then her first love is DST. Some of y'all may think it's not that serious. But the reason why that was said is because, one, this wedding has already taken place under God, under Jesus Christ. It may look like she belongs to you, sir, but Delta has her heart. And the reason why there is a list of men basically saying he may be a part of this organization or whatever, because when you're a part of the Divine Nine, you're looked at as the elite. These are men of prestige. If she did marry somebody who wasn't in one of these organizations, something that I hated when I heard people in Greek organizations call people who weren't GDIs. That was so mean to me. I didn't like that. But basically saying, even if she has one of these men who are elite, who are of prestige, Minerva has her heart first. Minerva, because that what was hidden from us until we went into those rooms. I was thinking that, oh, I want to wear these letters. I don't know what I thought it was all about. All I knew was my cousin was a part of it, and I learned the step and I saw the strutting and all this and that. I wanted to be a part of it. It wasn't until I got into the study room and we started learning about Minerva. Of course, my storage became too full when I mentioned Minerva, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to power through this. If I'm talking too fast, excuse me, but I'm trying to get the rest of this out so I can have enough space to edit and save the video. Back to what I was saying, the God behind Delta is Minerva. And a lot of times in different marriages or even relationships, the person who is not in that organization or not a part of an organization always feels as if that person is spending too much time with their sorority sisters or their sorority brothers. For instance, we had an advisor who said her husband always complained about her going to meetings or regionals or whatever the case. And it's because she pledged that Delta is her first love. Now, don't get me wrong, y'all. I know that it's not the case for every single person, but I'm just trying to make you understand why it is such. People think, oh, it's just my blind sisters or my LBs and I love them, but no, you're really dedicated to this false god, to this false idol. And going back to not knowing exactly what I was a part of, I just remember anytime I would see the shield in that head that was supposed to be Minerva, it spooked me out. Like, it didn't sit right, it didn't feel right to me. But because I wanted to wear Delta Sigma Theta on my right side, I ignored it. It never sat right with me. And just another thing, when you're married, nothing or no one is supposed to come before your spouse except God, Jesus Christ. So you, not a job, not anyone else outside the marriage, and especially not another organization. Like, I remember I saw this couple and I was watching something. She was complaining about her husband being inducted as a Mason. She was complaining about how much time he was spending away with them. Yes, that's the point that I am making about Delta's basically confirming or pledging at a wedding that, hey, Delta is my first love, although I just formed a covenant with my husband before God and the witnesses. If you're still wondering why we haven't flourished as a people, why we can't grow, is because we are under these false covenants. Our leaders, Martin Luther King, just so many others, Bill Cosby. I know y'all don't want to reference or y'all feel a different way because of different things that happened with him. I will link a video. If y'all don't watch any of the video, I'm gonna try to put it at the top. But the pastor breaks down Freemasonry, where it started, I believe the shield, so many other things. He breaks it down in the video. But the way I want to explain it is, we can't thrive as a people. We can't move ahead because all of us are under, well, I'm no longer, but we are signing ourselves under these false covenants, under these curses. And I'm rushing for the sake of the video. This is tied to the industry. Every time someone wants to buy back their masters, Whitney Houston, Prince, a host of others that I can't think of, they always turn up, they end up dead. Drug usage is some kind of form of humiliation. But reason being is because they are under this covenant, and their take is, I made you. I gave you this loan to start your music career. I am the reason why you have these fans. How dare you come to me and say you want to buy back something that's really mine? It's not gonna happen. Just to put it on a very small level, if you will, when you were younger, when you were a little kid, and let's say you came in the house and you were hungry, you wanted something to eat, and you said you wanted McDonald's. That was popular. I don't want anybody to go get McDonald's, but you said you wanted McDonald's. And what did whoever was cooking say? Do you have McDonald's money? The reason why they ask that is because if you don't have the money to buy McDonald's, then what I am giving you is what you're going to eat. Because you don't have the money, you ultimately do not have the power to determine what you will eat. I'm the one that's providing the money for you to eat. When these people would go and try to get their masters, that is what happened, because they felt like, no, this is my master's. I gave you the money to eat. Another thing, a few months back when I saw on YouTube that Fantasia was inducted into Sigma Gamma Rho, I said, oh Lord, they got my girl. It's not a coincidence that months later, she's now starring in The Color Purple. All of this stuff is tied together. It has been hidden in plain sight. And just going back, the reason why I was always fascinated with astrology, numerology, even digging into stuff that happened in the industry, like with Aaliyah when she passed, and just so many other things, it was spooky to me. But the reason why I was so fascinated with it is because I was a part of it, but I didn't know what I was a part of. I'll say it again. I was a part of it, but I didn't know what I was a part of. A lot of you watching. September 2022, after I renounced and denounced the sorority, I told one of my former line sisters, and I told her that I wanted to get baptized again. And I asked her about Concord, that is a mega church here in the DFW. So when she basically told me that wasn't the church that we visited when I first moved here. So long story short, I went and I looked at the church. I watched like part of a sermon from the pastor, and I can't explain it, but it was like it wasn't a bad feeling, but there wasn't a connection. Like I didn't feel the oil dripping. Like the main thing that I wanted was somebody who is fully submitted to God, because again, you know, there are some leaders who are a part of different organizations. So I looked at other churches and I was like, well, maybe I'll go here. I felt the same way. This was last year. Time went by. March, it came back to me again. I went back to the pastor from Concord, felt the same way, but I still signed up for the baptism class. I completed the baptism class April the 6th. And when it was finished, they said the slots that we have available for May are almost full. If they're too full, we will send you the options for June and July, I believe. When they said that, I knew there was a reason that I may not be able to get into that class. So, time went by. They sent the email for me to decide. I signed up for June 4th. I was like, well, that's fine. It's still before my birthday. So I was watching this famous podcast here in the DFW, Dear Future Wifey podcast. Is free therapy. Watch it on Wednesdays. So May the 3rd, the pastor and his wife appeared on the podcast. So I'm like, okay, good. You know, I'm really going to get some information. I don't even think it was 15 minutes into the podcast, but I know it was in 30 minutes. He announced proudly that he was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I said, oh my God. I said, Lord, like I paused the podcast, the YouTube video, and I said, Lord, like this is so real. So that is why I could not get into the May baptism thingamajig for that Sunday. And I don't know if, you know, it makes sense, because some of y'all feel like it's no problem, but why would I remove myself, come out from under a curse, from under a covenant, and then go let somebody lay hands on me and put me in the water and they're a part of it? it would pretty much be as if I'm going back under it because you are under the curse that I left. Something else that I want to touch on. There is a hymn, but it says, Delta, with loyal hearts we gather. And then later in the song, it says, Delta, with something we praise thee. Who is thee? It's Minerva. That's idolatry. Who? I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. But now that I know, I can't. I will no longer participate. And the reason why scripture says basically resist the devil and he will flee, because if you are knowingly participating in sin, when you know something is wrong, when you know you're doing something wrong, you are giving the devil free reign to attack you, to cause a lot of issues in your life. Do y'all remember in school, elementary, I'm gonna say junior high, when somebody was about to fight, there would be one person in the middle and there will be one person on the outside circling the other person. Or maybe it was, step across this line. I dare you to step across this line. The reason why they would dare the person is because if you step across this line, that means that you are willing and prepared to get all of the consequences that comes along with you stepping across that line. Step across that line if you big and bad. The point that I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying that the devil will never tempt you again or you will never have any issues. But what I will say is that now this sense of peace, this joy that I have, this confidence that I have in God, in Jesus, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't change what I went through. Was it hard? Yes, indeed, it was hard. And I didn't even have a chance to take a break and really take in everything that I've been through over these past 6 years until probably July. I didn't understand everything. I didn't sit down. The only thing I was trying to do was move forward, to not be taken out, to not die, to not lose myself or lose my faith. And I remember when I was in the hospital I was in the hospital the end of 2021 after my daddy passed. Before that, I had a bad episode and I had another witness. It was my cousin. Well, I was belligerent. It was bad. There was an officer behind me that had my hands. There was another officer who was on my feet. And I was like going off on them 1 minute. And then I was saying that they were my friends. Also, I remember rapping, and then I remember singing Safe in His Arms. There was a mental health counselor. She was Black. She had gotten out the car. She was singing with me, Safe in His Arms. Again, that's how I know it was spiritual warfare, but I didn't know where it was coming from. And there was also other relatives who were saying that they felt like I was putting on or I was clowning. We see too many of us lose our lives at the hand of police. Why would I put myself and my life in harm's way for attention, or just because I felt like it? Like that first time when everything happened in downtown Dallas, they got me on the ground. I was screaming for them to take me out. I was telling them to unalive me in my head. That's what I was telling them. That was not me. That was the enemy. But thank God he kept me. I am truly thankful. And this, I have been like, I've just been seated at the Lord's feet, thanking him and praising him and crying, no matter what it is, no matter how I'm feeling, because again, I have this unspeakable joy that does not go away. I may have my little moments where I start to feel a certain way or maybe doubt, but I remind myself that God has me. You have me. You brought me through too much to not have me. Why am I worrying? Why should I fear or wonder about tomorrow? You have sustained me. You will keep me. You will continue to do that as long as I am obedient. And as long as I am obedient and not participating in sin, not willingly, not knowingly participating in sin. And I'm not perfect. There are times when a little potty mouth will come out, but I'll pray about it. Lord, forgive me, help me with that. And then I have to backtrack and wonder, where did that come from? Because it had to have been something I watched, something that I listened to that probably came up while I was watching something. And I've learned that I can't watch certain shows. I can't listen to certain music because it is subconsciously programming, and we don't understand that. There are a lot of things that I've had to consciously steer away from. I have to sometimes even now say, no, you can't watch that. I used to be a big Power fan, but the shows now are so gory, and you fall asleep on something and somebody chasing you, and it's just a lot.